Yeah. Right. Let's get cooking. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you all for coming. This is awesome. This is our second session of this format, which has been really all the individual sessions over the weeks. Pretty much every week now, I'm talking to another group, which is a lot of fun, and it's really cool to see the different arrays of which people are using these tools and how they're using them and how they're not using them. And having you all show up here today, it's just a testament to everybody's commitment to going down this journey. So today we are going to we're going to get a clear view of AI adoption rates and look at that in a way that I don't really see it displayed very much. We're going to talk about the tools, the features, things for you to really think about over the next month. We'll go into some sample prompts and tactics around personal and professional level, and uh, and then at the end, I will hand over to all of you some 12-week guides that I've made for various levels of where you're at to help move you forward. Our agenda is about 30% philosophical of me rambling my thoughts that I came up with all by myself, hanging out with Mr. ChatGPT, and about 60% practical, and then hopefully we have some time for Q&A at the end. That being said, really use the hand button if you have a question, and at any point, and I'll give you a shout. So let's go. Part one, our philosophical part. All right, we're gonna take just a second here, and I am asking everybody to click that link and answer the three questions that are on that little survey. 13. All right, that answer that you got on that screen, I just want you to remember that. Whether you're aware, passive, casual, regular, power, innovator, just remember that. And just keep that in your mind. We're going to look at some charts and stuff over the next few minutes, and it'll come back in handy towards the end of the presentation here. This is great. This is really cool. The purpose of doing this survey is to help you level set and get a real quick snapshot of where you're at. It's really wild. The more I get into this and the more I meet with people, the more I learn people. And it makes total sense. You ask somebody how good they are at, shoveling snow, they're just gonna tell you something. But the reality of how good are they actually is probably not actually what they think. And so self-perception, getting another external vantage point on your baseline, your benchmark is really healthy. And that's why I want you to remember that. So about a month ago, I was at the grocery store next to my house, and I was talking to the butcher who I talk to pretty much every day. And he asked how that new recipe was I was working on. I told him I had used a cast iron, and he was like, "How'd you figure out how to use a cast iron? Like, what gave you that idea?" And I told him ChatGPT, AI, and he said, "What's AI?" And I said, "What?" He turned and looked at the other butcher who I also know, and he was like, "Do you use AI?" And he was like, "What's AI?" And my mind was blown. This is a guy that I see almost every day. We have conversations far beyond just food. So like I was like, "All right, come walk with me." And we walked around the grocery store, and I just told him like, "All right, man, you got one homework, and it's to download this tool, and it's to once per day, instead of going to Google, just go to this tool and just start to touch it. And just that fact of him touching it is going to move him from the bottom of this chart up towards the top, up towards the top, up towards the top." And it's just, it's important for everybody to realize where they're at and then to know where they want to go. And that's why I made this tool. You are all going to get a copy of this report, which is actually a interactive report that you can click around and play around with. You can go through and you can start to learn a little bit about more about each of these segments, because we're talking about the fact that there's 15% of the adult US population that doesn't even know these tools exist. Then we're talking about another 21% of the adult US populations that know they exist, but they've never used them. And then the largest bucket, which puts us up to a grand total of 66% of the US adult population, the passive users that they know it exists, they've never used it, except for where the tool is already, it's where AI is already part of a tool that they're using. Like, let's say they use Gmail and there's a summarizer up top. That would be a passive user where they've used it, but they didn't actually try to use it. And then we get up into this actual uses the tool maybe a couple times a month, Maybe we're still converting Fahrenheit to Celsius with ChatGPT, and that's the extent of our usage and our understanding of the tool. And then you get into your regular users who more are so on the day to day. They've got multiple things that they always go to. And then we have your power users. These are the people where they know enough about these tools to be highly dangerous. They know enough about these tools to really start having a noticeable impact on their personal life and their professional life in terms of what they can learn, how fast they can move, all sorts of ways that are just advancing their day-to-day operations. And then you move into the Sam Altmans of the world, the innovators, the builders, the people that are actually on the back end of these tools and are actively doing things that I might not even understand today. And so I don't think anybody's goal should ever actually be to be an innovator. I think everybody's goal should be to be a power user. If not a power user, then absolutely a regular user. And it's not that you have to know this stuff to the depths of, say, I do, or to the depths of, say, the three people that consider themselves or measured as innovators. Not everybody has to be at that level, but you have to understand enough about these tools so that when they start to encroach on your business and your business operations, you're not blind to what their capabilities are. And you're not blind to the reality that they are going to be here. And if you ignore them, and if you choose not to participate and understand them, they're going to keep moving forward. And that's going to leave you in that same exact spot without going forward. And this is a concept I really just call staying on the train. Imagine, okay, take your business that you're in, regardless of your position, your role, whether you own the company or don't own the company, just mentally duplicate your business, an exact replica. And this is not a mind-blowing analogy here, right? You have one business that is open to AI. They embrace the concept. They might not have any, but their culture, from their owner to their leadership team to their management teams down to the execution and the operators, everybody's open and there's space to try and there's space to experiment and there's space to try to bring this into the business. And then the other business says, this is a fad, this isn't working, security can't let us do this. It's all about, I'm not going to put any PII in there, so we're not going to use it, period. Well, you know what's going to happen over time, right? Whether it be a couple weeks or a couple months, the one that embraces this is going to start to get a little faster. The one that embraces this is going to start to get a little smarter. They're going to start to save time and money operationally. They're probably going to start to have better customer experiences. They might even have better customer acquisition. They might even have lower retention and all these things. Now let's go to the couple months to a year state. Now you've got a world where these two identical companies, they're both probably going to keep hiring. But the one that embraces AI is probably going to hire a little less. And surprise, surprise, one of those roles that they hire is probably going to be somebody whose job is to wrangle in and manage all of the AI infrastructure and innovation that's happening in the business. Meanwhile, you got the other company who's hired just as many people, but they're not moving as fast, they're not being as profitable, and they're not innovating. And then you extrapolate that over a year or two or three or however long you want it to take, you probably inevitably end up with only one company at the table. And so what does all this mean? It starts with you. Where are you on this spectrum? And where do you want to be? Where do you think you should be? Where is your leadership team? Where are your direct reports? Where is your CEO if you don't own the company? And then where is your whole company? And at the end of the day, where do you want all of these positions to be? Where do you want all of these people, all of these teams, and your whole organization to be? Because if it's in the same place as it is today, that's not a good answer, right? You've got to be wanting to move forward, and you've got to be open, and you've got to be curious, and you've got to realize this is the path forward, right? When the internet came out, I just stumbled upon this analogy, so I'm still workshopping it. When the internet came out, I mean, like the day the internet came out, nobody had access to the internet, right? Except for scientists. I remember riding my bike to Walgreens. Well, first we had to get a computer, and then we had to get the computer hooked up to the phone line. And then I remember riding my bike to Walgreens and grabbing like 100 AOL discs and going to the lake and throwing them around like Frisbees with all my friends. My point there is that when the internet came out that changed the world, it didn't happen overnight, right? It actually did take a while for adoption and for it to reach everybody. Versus here, what we've got going on here is overnight, the most impactful tool in history of civilization was just handed to the entire global community. And so it's no surprise that there's this mix of people and their different positions that they just not everybody understands it. And the train, there are trains that have left. There are plenty of trains that are still at the station. And I encourage you all to get on a train. And if you're on a train, move up forward in the train so that when it does take off, you're on it and you're ready. So the last, kind of shifting gears a little bit, this is to demonstrate some of the progression we're about to see. On the screen is our beloved prompt box from ChatGPT. If you're using any other tool, you have the same exact interface where you say, can you convert this Fahrenheit temperature to Celsius for me, right? Or can you comb through this 9,000 line Excel sheet and find the anomalies and give me the 3 takeaways of what it is I need to do to increase X to Y? That's all this prompt I give, and then it returns. Guess what? The prompt box is going away. You're going to start seeing less and less and less and less of it over the next year. So if you're this, I'm not trying to do scare tactics here or anything. It's trying to give reality. If you're not comfortable with the prompt box yet, like get comfortable with the prompt box because it's going to start to be around less and less and less. What's happening is you're starting to see all these function-specific tools, AI-backed specific tools that know exactly so much about that one thing you paid $10 a month for that it doesn't need a prompt box, right? For you Gmail users out there, at the top of your email, it says the summary of the email, right? So goodbye copying and pasting an email into the prompt box and saying summarize it, because it's already happening. When you're texting, if you're on an iPhone, you get a response from, you get somebody sends you a text message. Siri is now just giving you, Siri just thought I was talking to her. She's now just giving you text copy to respond with, right? By copying this complicated text and putting it into a prompt box and then going back and forth. You're going to see integration of these tools way more aggressively into all the tools you already use. You know, if we go back like 2 years, maybe even 3 years, kind of right when this all started to happen, overnight you saw companies just change their headlines on their website to AI powered whatever, right? AI powered ice cream company. And those that kind of knew what was going on knew that that was all just a sham. Like there's no way that overnight all of these companies were AI powered, right? Well, moving forward, every company is going to be AI powered. Every service that you offer in a year from now, you probably won't be paying a subscription to a SaaS service of any type that doesn't utilize AI and doesn't reduce the amount that you've got to go look at the prompt box. The point there is to get on a train. Any questions before we shift gears again? Yeah, Donna.
I noticed when we were looking at the stages, the age range of the people who are utilizing these tools. I'm just going to tell you, I'm feeling really young right now because I have to fit into one of those. And I think the oldest one was like 54. I'm in.
Nice. Good. Again, you're all going to get this link when you click. So we're over in the segments. It starts with the pyramid, then we go to the segments. When you click into these, you get to learn a little bit more about who these people are, where they live, what they do, their key traits. And then there's another really interesting slide or interesting part over here, the sensitivity. These are all of the buckets. And if you click into them, you will see the estimated likelihood amount of time that this category of users is going to notice a major update to these tools. And all it does is really reinforces the generality of if somebody's unaware, then yeah, they're never going to know about an update. And if we're talking about Sam Altman, he's going to know because he just pushed the public button, right? And so forth in between. But what it does is help you realize that some people use these tools for different things. And these daily, oh yeah, I remember. The real point of me putting this together was to reiterate the concept we're going to look at in a minute, which is stop worrying about the nitty gritty. You should not care about tool updates. You should care about yourself and your movement forward. So we'll get on that in a second. Any other questions?
I guess I have a question about updates, just a curiosity, and maybe I don't really have a fully formed question, but it may be while they're switching from one format to another, but there are certain things like more complex questions that I'm asking to have answered. It split screens for me and then says, here's one solution and here's another solution from a different version. And it's like, which one do you like? I end up sort of going, well, I like three-quarters of this one, and then I'm gonna take these great ideas from this other one, but like I'm why so different? And I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I hate when that happens because people that use these tools, they call that like the level of intent of usage on these tools compared to Google, right? If I go to Google and I'm like, "Hey, how big is the Earth?" Like I'm super exploratory there. But when you use these tools, you rarely are asking these like one-off questions. It's usually because you have high intent because you're trying to do something in that moment, whether it's like analyzing service providers or figuring out what your next move on the strategy is going to be so you can then go tell the other five people what to do, right? So when it gives me those I hate it because I then have to take longer to like I didn't sign up to go, or just give me the answer.
Yeah,
what it,
exactly.
what it's doing there in short is it's just figuring out like actual user feedback, like which of these responses fits better to your question style so that we can tailor our responses to you better, and so we can tailor our responses to the general public better. So with that, it's kind of like a thumb up, thumb down feedback survey. It is theoretically worth taking a few seconds to say which one you like more or less, because you will end up seeing more of a certain. Because if you really read the two, they're different.
They're
They're different
different. And that's the thing.
presentations.
Like I really do. Like I value the content from both of them. So I'm like, well, I don't want to vote one of these down because what you really should have done was combine them.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's keep cruising. All right. Today's sponsors, JDG Advisors. This is me. I help businesses with marketing strategy. I do advisement work. I do strategy work. I help them understand where they're going and they're going in the right way, the right way. I also do AI adoption support and consultation, just like this. But the reality is we're only here for 60 minutes. So there's a world where you or anybody you know or businesses you work with want to really make this a thing that you're moving forward on. Please let me know. Please introduce me. And please know that anybody here, you've got access to me. If you want to do a 30, 60-minute call just to like level set and keep you going on the right path, you have my schedulers. Just hit me up.